I'm 29 and I've been with my fiancé Claire for a little over 3 years. We got engaged last fall, nothing flashy, just a quiet weekend in Vermont with a rented cabin, a hike, and me nervously fumbling the ring out of my jacket pocket while she laughed and cried at the same time. Claire is 27. She works as a graphic designer for a small marketing firm in Boston. She's funny in a dry, slightly sarcastic way, the kind of person who remembers little details about people and checks in on them later. She's also not the type my parents ever imagined I'd end up with. My parents are the kind of people who care a lot about appearances, not in an obvious Instagram way, but in that quiet, old-school, suburban, judgmental way. My dad, Richard, is a retired financial advisor who still talks like he's in a boardroom. My mom, Linda, has been part of the same country club for 20 years and treats it like a personality trait. They always assumed I'd marry someone polished. Their word, not mine. Claire didn't grow up like that. Her dad's a mechanic, her mom works part-time at a daycare, and she paid her own way through college. She's proud of it. I've always admired that about her. My parents tolerated her at first. They were polite enough when they met her. Smiles, handshakes, my mom doing that overly sweet voice she uses when she's trying too hard. But I could tell something was off even then. Little things. My mom asking where Claire went to school and then saying, "Oh, I haven't heard of that one," with a tight smile. My dad asking what she planned to do long-term, like her job wasn't already a career. Claire noticed, of course. She's not oblivious. After that first dinner, she said, "Your parents are intense." I apologized. She shrugged it off. "They don't have to love me," she said. "They just have to respect me." I thought that was reasonable. I also thought my parents would come around eventually. I was wrong. Over the next couple of years, we'd see them on holidays, occasional dinners, birthdays. Every time, there'd be some comment. Nothing big enough to call out in the moment, but enough to leave a mark. My mom once said, "You're so brave for working in such a competitive field," to Claire, which sounded like a compliment until she followed it with, "It must be stressful not having much job security." My dad asked her, in front of everyone, "Do you ever think about going back to school, maybe getting something more stable?" Claire always handled it gracefully. She'd smile, give a calm answer, and change the subject. Later in the car, she'd go quiet. "I don't think they like me," she admitted once. "They just don't know you yet," I said, even though I wasn't sure I believed it anymore. Things got worse after we got engaged. When I told my parents, my mom hugged me, but it felt stiff. "Oh, that's best," she said. We'd been together for almost 3 years. My dad shook my hand like I'd just closed a business deal. "Well, as long as you're sure." They didn't ask about the proposal. They didn't ask how Claire felt. It was all very transactional. A few weeks later, my mom called and suggested we all have dinner. To celebrate, she said. Claire was nervous, but she agreed. She even bought a new dress, nothing fancy. Just a simple navy one she said made her feel a little more put together. The dinner was at my parents' house in Westchester. Big place, manicured lawn, the whole thing. My mom had clearly gone all out, nice table setting, candles, a roast in the oven. At first it was fine. We made small talk in the living room. My dad asked about my job. My mom complimented Claire's dress in that careful tone she uses. "It's very understated," she said. Claire smiled. "Thanks." We sat down to eat. Wine was poured. For a while, it was normal conversation, travel, work, some story about a neighbor. Then my mom asked Claire about wedding plans. "Have you thought about venues?" she said. Claire nodded. "We've been looking at a few places outside the city. Maybe something a little more relaxed. Outdoor ceremony if the weather's nice." My mom's smile tightened. "Oh, outdoor?" she said, like it was a risky choice. My dad chimed in. "Those can be unpredictable." "We like the idea of something a bit less formal," Claire said. "More personal." There was a pause. "Well," my mom said, picking up her wine glass, "I suppose that fits your style." Something about the way she said "your style" made my stomach twist. Claire glanced at me briefly, then back at my mom. "What do you mean?" "Oh, nothing," my mom said quickly. "Just, not everyone dreams of a traditional wedding." Claire gave a small nod. "Yeah, I guess not." I should have said something then. I felt it, the shift in the room. But I didn't. I told myself it wasn't worth making a scene. Dinner continued, but the tone had changed. My dad asked about Claire's family. Will they be contributing to the wedding? He said, cutting into a steak. I froze. Claire blinked. We haven't really talked about that. Well, my dad said. Traditionally, the bride's family covers a significant portion. My mom added, of course. We understand if that's not possible. There it was. Claire set her fork down carefully. My parents will help however they can, she said. But we're mostly planning to pay for it ourselves. My dad nodded slowly. That's admirable. It didn't sound like a compliment. I could feel the tension building, like a pressure in my chest. Then my mom said, it's just that weddings can get expensive, especially if you want them to look nice. Claire looked up. I know. I'm sure you do, my mom said. I just wouldn't want you to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up with expectations. Claire's expression changed slightly. Not angry, not defensive. Just more guarded. I think we'll be okay, she said. My dad leaned back in his chair. Out of curiosity, he said. What kind of budget are you working with? That was it. Claire hesitated. We haven't finalized anything yet. Ballpark? He pressed. I finally spoke. Dad, we don't need to get into numbers. He waved a hand. I'm just trying to help. There's a big difference between a tasteful event and something that feels thrown together. Claire's jaw tightened. I don't think our wedding will feel thrown together, she said quietly. My mom gave a soft, almost pitying smile. I'm sure you'll do your best. Something in me snapped a little. Mom, I said, what is that supposed to mean? She looked at me surprised. I'm just being realistic, honey. There are certain standards, I repeated. Yes, she said, more firmly now. When you invite people, when you represent your family, it reflects on all of us. Claire's hands were clasped in her lap now. She wasn't looking at anyone. My dad added, we're not saying you can't have your preferences. But there's a level of quality people expect. And you don't think we can meet that? I asked. My mom sighed, like this was all very exhausting for her. I think Claire comes from a different background, she said. And that's okay, but sometimes those differences show. The room went very quiet. Claire finally looked up. Are you saying I'm not good enough for your son? My mom blinked. I didn't say that. You didn't have to, Claire said. My dad jumped in. No one is attacking you. We're just having a practical conversation. It doesn't feel practical, Claire said. It feels like you've already decided what I can and can't do. My mom's tone cooled. Well, when you've seen as many of these things as we have, you develop a sense for how they turn out. Claire let out a small, humorless laugh. So you think I'm going to embarrass you? That's not what I said, my mom insisted. It's exactly what you're implying. I could feel my heart pounding. I'd never seen Claire this close to losing her composure. My dad looked at me. Are you going to let this spiral or what? I said. Or step in and keep things reasonable. I stared at him. Reasonable? I said. You're insulting her. We're being honest, he said. No, I said. You're being condescending. My mom set her glass down a little too hard. I think you're overreacting. Claire pushed her chair back slightly like she was about to stand, then stopped. She looked at me and there was something in her eyes I hadn't seen before. Not anger, not sadness, just disappointment. That hit harder than anything my parents had said. I realized in that moment that I'd been sitting there, letting this happen, waiting too long to say anything, hoping it would somehow fix itself. It wasn't going to. I stood up. The chair legs scraped against the floor, loud in the quiet room. I think we're done here, I said. My mom looked genuinely shocked. Excuse me. I turned to Claire. Let's go. She blinked, like she wasn't expecting that, then slowly stood up too. My dad frowned. You're seriously leaving in the middle of dinner? Yes, I said. That's incredibly rude, my mom said. I almost laughed at that. You've been rude all night, I said. We're just not pretending it's fine anymore. My dad's voice hardened. Sit down. We can talk this through like adults. We are talking like adults, I said. We're just not staying. Claire grabbed her purse. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her face was calm. Thank you for dinner, she said, because of course she did. My mom didn't respond. I walked with Claire to the front door. My parents followed us into the hallway. "You're making a mistake," my dad said. I opened the door. If this is how you're going to treat her, then yeah, I'm choosing her. My mom's expression shifted, something between anger and disbelief. "You're choosing her over your family?" I paused. "I'm choosing the person who respects me," I said. "And who I respect." Claire glanced at me, eyes wide like she hadn't expected me to say that out loud. We stepped outside. The air was cold, sharp. I heard my mom call my name, but I didn't turn around. We got in the car. For a few seconds, neither of us said anything. Then Claire let out a shaky breath. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what?" I asked. "For all of that." I shook my head. "You didn't do anything wrong." She stared out the window. "I knew they didn't like me. I just didn't think it was that bad." "Yeah," I said quietly. "Me neither." We drove in silence for a while. Then she said, "You didn't have to leave." I glanced at her. "Yeah, I did." She looked at me. Really looked this time. "Thank you," she said. I nodded, but I didn't say anything else. When we got back to our apartment, she went straight to the bedroom. I could hear her moving around, probably changing, trying to decompress. I stayed in the living room for a bit, just standing there, replaying everything in my head. My phone buzzed. It was my mom. "Call me now." I didn't. Then my dad texted. "You owe us an apology." I stared at the screen for a long time, then set the phone face down on the table. A few minutes later, Claire came out, wearing sweats and one of my old hoodies. Her hair was tied back, and her makeup was mostly gone. She looked tired. "Are you okay?" I asked. She shrugged. "I will be." She sat down on the couch, tucking her legs under her. "I meant what I said," she added. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," I said. "But I wanted to." She studied me for a second. "That couldn't have been easy." "It wasn't," I admitted. We sat there in silence again, but it felt different this time. Quieter, but not tense. After a while, she said, "Do you think this is going to mess things up with your parents?" I let out a small breath. "Yeah, probably." She nodded slowly. "I don't want to come between you and your family." "You're not," I said. "They are." She didn't argue with that. That night, we didn't talk much more about it. We ordered takeout, watched something mindless, and went to bed earlier than usual. But lying there in the dark, I kept thinking about that moment at the table. The look on Claire's face, the way my parents didn't even seem to realize how cruel they were being, and how close I'd come to just sitting there and letting it happen. The next morning, I woke up to more messages. My mom had sent a long text about respect and family values. My dad's was shorter, basically repeating that I owed them an apology and that Claire had been overly sensitive. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I made coffee, sat at the kitchen counter, and just thought. Claire came out a little later, still looking tired but more composed. "Morning," she said. "Morning." She poured herself some coffee and leaned against the counter. "My mom texted me," she said. I frowned. "She has your number?" "Yeah, from before." "What did she say?" Claire hesitated, then handed me her phone. The message was polite on the surface. "Claire, I'm sorry if anything we said came across the wrong way. That wasn't our intention. We just want what's best for our son." I felt my jaw tighten. "Came across the wrong way," I repeated. Claire took her phone back. I didn't reply. "Good," I said. She watched me for a moment. "What are you going to do?" I looked at my own phone, still sitting on the counter with unread messages. "I don't know," I admitted. And that was the honest answer, because for the first time, it wasn't just about smoothing things over or keeping the peace. Something had shifted. And I wasn't sure there was a way to go back to how things were before.